Welcome back to my channel. In this video, we will explore another aspect of orientation responses in animals. Orientation in time and space. All animals, including those living in very uniform environments, such as deep oceans and deep caves, display rhythmic behavior. Rhythmic behavioral patterns are innate, meaning not learned, and are usually linked to regular cyclic changes in the external environment caused by the movement of the Earth around the Sun and the Moon around the Earth. We can identify rhythmic behavior as daily, tidal, annual, lunar, and semi-lunar. 1. Daily rhythms. Daily rhythms in animals, also known as circadian rhythms, are roughly 24-hour cycles of physical, mental, and behavioral changes that occur in living organisms. These rhythms are influenced by the patterns of light and dark in the environment, and they regulate various bodily functions like sleep-wake cycles, hormone release, and appetite. Most animals are active only during certain parts of the day-night cycle. Animals like kiwis, crickets, moorporks, owls, weters, snails, and possums are nocturnal. Nocturnal animals are those that are primarily active during the night and sleep during the day. This behavior, known as nocturnality, is a survival strategy for many species, allowing them to avoid daytime predators or to find prey more effectively in the dark. In contrast, other animals, such as the pukeko, tui, grasshoppers, cicadas, sheep, and deer, are diurnal. Diurnal animals are those that are primarily active during the day. They exhibit a daily rhythm of activity, with their peak periods of movement, feeding, and social interaction occurring during daylight hours. Less common are crepuscular animals, which are active at dawn and dusk. Examples include rabbits, sandhoppers, long-tailed bats, and short-tailed bats. All animals exhibit specific adaptations to their activity patterns. Besides the obvious sleep-wake cycle, bodily or physiological processes may also demonstrate daily activity patterns. For instance, in humans, body temperature, urine production and composition, hormone production, liver metabolism, and sensitivity to drugs all follow a daily rhythm. 2. Tidal rhythms. Tidal rhythms, also known as circatidal rhythms, are biological rhythms with a period of roughly 12.4 hours, corresponding to the time between successive high or low tides. These rhythms are particularly prominent in marine and intertidal species, allowing them to anticipate and adapt to the predictable environmental changes associated with tidal cycles. Tidal rhythms are caused by the gravitational pull of the Moon and the Sun, coupled with the rotation of the Earth on its axis. The Earth and Moon rotate around their common center of gravity, causing water to pile up both towards and away from the Moon, creating a high tide. Therefore, there are 2 tides a day. Any organism living near the middle of the tidal zone alternately inhabits 2 environments, land and sea. For most intertidal inhabitants, immersion by the sea is the time for feeding and reproduction. Exposure to air at low tide poses the threat of desiccation. Extreme temperature fluctuations, and occasionally osmotic flooding from rain. Most intertidal organisms, therefore, cease activity when the tide is out. For example, when the tide is out, worms retreat into burrows, barnacles close their shells, and blennies, small shorefish, seek shelter in crevices. Some intertidal animals show the reverse pattern of activity. They become active as the tide drops. These organisms typically feed upon materials deposited by the outgoing tide. For example, the mud crab, Helis crassa, lives in burrows when the tide is in, emerging to forage when the tide is out. 3. Annual rhythms. Annual rhythms, also known as circannual rhythms, are biological cycles that occur on a yearly basis in animals. These rhythms coordinate behaviors like hibernation, migration, and reproduction with seasonal changes in the environment. They are driven by both internal biological clocks and external cues, like photoperiod and temperature. The combination of the Earth's tilt and orbit results in regular changes in day length, or photoperiod, during the year. The changes in photoperiod result in annual rhythms in animals. Hibernation is an adaptive feature in animals that allows them to survive winters with inadequate food supplies. An animal has to prepare for hibernation by eating excess food, which is stored as fat deposits to sustain the animal as it hibernates. Examples of animals that hibernate include ground squirrels, chipmunks, hedgehogs, and bats. Other animals, such as bears, skunks, and raccoons, enter a state of dormancy, referred to as light hibernation or torpor. New Zealand's two native bats, long-tailed and short-tailed bats, may enter a state of torpor when temperatures drop and insect food becomes scarce. But they do not enter a true state of hibernation. Estivation, also known as summer dormancy, is a state of inactivity or reduced metabolic activity that some animals enter during periods of hot, dry weather. It's a survival strategy to conserve energy and water when faced with harsh environmental conditions, similar to hibernation, but occurring in warmer months. Examples of animals that estivate include lungfish, snails, desert tortoises, certain species of snakes, crocodiles, and some insects. Diapause is a state of dormancy or developmental arrest in some arthropods, particularly insects, that allows them to survive unfavorable environmental conditions. It's essentially a pause in growth and development, where most life processes slow down or stop, allowing the organism to conserve energy and withstand periods of harsh conditions, such as winter or drought. 4. Lunar rhythms. Lunar rhythms, also known as circadian rhythms, are biological rhythms that are synchronized with the phases of the moon and the resulting tidal cycles. They are primarily observed in marine organisms and are characterized by a period of roughly 29.5 days, corresponding to the lunar cycle. These rhythms influence various behaviors, particularly in intertidal animals, coordinating their activities with the changing water levels and moonlight. For example, young salmon, prior to their seaward migration, migrate downstream to estuaries. At the new moon, there is a surge in their output of the hormone thyroxine, bringing about the physiological changes that enable the fish to regulate their internal salt concentration in seawater. 5. Semi-lunar rhythms. Semi-lunar rhythms in animals refer to biological cycles with a period of approximately 14.7 days, corresponding to the cycle of spring and neaptides in a lunar month. These rhythms are particularly evident in intertidal organisms, influencing behaviors like spawning, foraging, and even growth rate. A New Zealand organism with a semi-lunar rhythm is the adult inanga, Galaxius maculatus, one of several species, whose young are known as whitebait, which travel downstream to estuaries for spawning. This movement coincides with the full moons and new moons in March and April. It is about this time of year when the spring tides are at their highest, and the eggs are laid and fertilized amongst vegetation that would not normally be covered by seawater. The eggs develop during the next 2 weeks in the damp environment around the bases of stems of grasses and rushes, and the young hatch on the next spring tide. In this way, the young can develop without danger from aquatic predators. Thanks for watching. I will see you soon with another science video. Until then, happy learning.